what I did want to cover, at least open a conversation around, because I think I wanted to do all that history in the backdrop stuff to bring us to a point where we can openly start conversating about some of the research that you've been doing over the years, especially dealing with, you know, the female mysteries and, you know, the womanhood and that type of stuff. Simply like you said, because that Sister Nzinga was repping, and the brothers didn't necessarily allow that space to be, you know, truly navigated like it deserved.
Yeah.
Years later, you know, same things are happening, basically. The same things are happening. And I would like for you, I know, you know, we can't go into the depths of it because I have loads of questions that I'm curious and interested in. I don't know if you can share if it's part of the female mystery system and men are not allowed to know this type of information. But there's loads of questions to be asked. But at the same time, I'd just like to know if you can just share with us in, you know, over a few minutes before the battery just randomly cuts out on us, abruptly ends the show, what you've been researching and some of the things, you know, that and why you're sharing that. And then maybe when we catch up next week, we can actually go into some of that. That's cool.
Yeah, one of the things that I'm really passionate about is about pregnancy and childbirth, especially the metaphysics and the spirituality of pregnancy and childbirth, particularly from obviously from an African perspective. That come about because of listening to the elders, listening to my mom, my aunties, and all them, and the conversations that they used to have amongst them. And obviously after reading and going to all the lectures and all that, I was like, this is my book. They are my books as well, because they had so much information about what it is to be a woman. Just like Marimba Annie's got her lecture, To Be a Woman. And the elders used to talk about all kinds of issues. Obviously, you can talk about menstruation, you can talk about menopause, you can talk about your childbirth, talking about the vagina, the breasts, you know, your headspace, talking about some of the rituals that was done to them, even though it was via the church when they were back in the Caribbean and in Africa, some of the rituals that were done to them, and certain things that were done and why they were done, if they worked, and the impact that it had on them. And I just kept on coming across that time and time again, but that was through pregnancy and childbirth. That was talking to people through pregnancy and childbirth. So I did like about 100 interviews, speaking to sisters and the elders about pregnancy and childbirth, and lots of women's mysteries, quote unquote, kept coming up. And so I took it from there. Some of the mysteries was like simple things, like you would know whether you were going to have a boy or a girl because you would have a dream, or somebody would have a dream, your grandmother would have a dream, and they would tell you that dream, and in that dream was ABC XYZ that needed to be done, or ABC XYZ about this child, what needed to be done with this child. And then there would be, you're not allowed to tell anybody, and you must go and get whatever it is that you need to get, that you have to do for yourself and for the child. And it got even more deeper, where they would say that maybe the husband or whomever it is, you have to go and get something for him as well, or you have to do this, you have to light this candle, you have to bathe with this particular type of thing, you have to insert something in and around some parts of your body to make things happen. And I was like, well, but just generally, this is what you do in rituals. And my auntie and them, that was no, for woman only. There's things that woman only. There's things you do not tell. You don't tell the men, and you just do what you have to do. And then obviously when you look at traditional African, not just African religions and ways of life, but when you look at our traditional peoples all around the world, it was the same thing, except that they would be able to, like they would be able to go out into the bush. They would be able to go out into the forest to do what they had to do. But at the time, and another thing that came up a lot as well, so like with my mum's generations, and they're in their late 80s, there was a lot to do with the sea. You see, this water theme and the sea thing keeps coming back. So there was a lot to do with the sea and the women and and all the mysteries that that come with it. I used to speak to my auntie and them lot and try and get the African link. You know, like I would come back and say, yeah, in Africa they do this is the same as what you're doing. And they just used to say to me, well, I don't know nothing about that, but in Jamaica, in Dominica, in St. Lucia, etc., this is how it's done. This is what it's about. This is what it's for. And it was really, really quite profound. But the women's mysteries as well for my mum's generation, also a lot of it took place in the church, in and within the church, particularly the Catholic Church, and anything to do like with the Spiritual Baptist Church, and that there was a lot of stuff in there for women, which obviously I'm not going to go into. But with the Catholic Church, it's little things like used to have a women's group called the Order of Mary, for example.
Okay.
And they would be doing a lot of prayers and chanting and, you know, all those kind of things. Our parents, obviously, they didn't make that link or sync it up, but the whole stuff with the women absolutely blew my mind. And I was hearing this over and over and over again, but that came through with the pregnancy and childbirth research that I was doing.
Right, right. So again, you judge some interesting bits there, and it just makes me think, yeah, just, you know, the whole rites of passages, you know, that have been laid down and have been removed, and but are still part of our DNA, still part of our archetypal framework, where we do things and have these customs and we don't know where they come from. No different from leaving money under your pillow after your tooth falls out, and you know, we've got these things that we do, and then there's stuff that's missing, you know, or has been removed, that is key to us discovering our, you know, our true powers. And I guess that's for females, that's for males, and then obviously the synergy, the synchronistic relationship, or the sacred union between the two. So I'm very keen. I've got daughters, and I'm very, you know, interested in them knowing about themselves and discovering who they are. And I'm aware that there's not many elders, there's not many people who keep that knowledge and information, that are able or also share that information, you know, because for the most part, most people, just like men, we're just still discovering ourselves, we're discovering things. So, you know, and I think, you know, the women or the elders, the wizards and the witches that held that knowledge and information basically got murked. They got killed and wiped out over the years. Religions come in, suppress that information, and it's no longer readily available. So again, I commend you for taking out the time to do all that type of research, bringing it into the here and now, showing the relationship between Africa, the Caribbean, and us in the West where we are now. And I really hope that we can really delve into that on our next conversation, some of that there.
Yes, let's do that.
Recently, you know, I was able to get the book from you, the Paradise Papers. And I've been flicking through that over the last few weeks, as well as corresponding it with some other bits and pieces that I've been delving into. And when I speak on it with my other female friends, you know, I get a lot of the time like, I'm not qualified to speak on it. I shouldn't be speaking on it because I'm a man. And,
really?
Yeah. And I'm like, no, but I have these conversations with sisters. You know, maybe these sisters are more open to the fact that, you know, we're dealing with principles and, you know, ideas and concepts that transcend gender. So yeah, I can talk about it and I can have an opinion. But I would like to have open dialogues and conversation with people like yourself that really know their stuff, rather than in some cases people who jump on the trends of, you know, whether it's the, you know, the black trend, the feminist trend, there's these trends, there's a psychedelic trend, you know, that people just jump on and they, you know, they glean some of it and run with it. And I think there's a lot more to be gleaned and shared with this subject matter, definitely. And I'm going to go to the people who I know. So I really would like to think that we can come back and open up and maybe have the whole conversation. Now I know a bit more about, you know, how we got to this point with the bookshop and the knowledge and the information. You can just delve into your research and what you got out of it and what you're sharing with women and people in general. Because what I've learned is if there are some female mysteries, just like there's some, you know, African mysteries, there's black mysteries, that I always make reference to the fact that we've all been miseducated. Now we're in a part of the world where we've all been misinformed. So there's no information just for people per se, in the sense that, you know, right now, you know, as I said, when I went to school, I was in school with boys, girls, black, white, Asian, Chinese. And I'm saying that to say that we were all miseducated. We were all misinformed. No one was, it's not like they separated us and gave us some private classes separate from others to teach us about what we needed to know. So nobody was educated, we were all misinformed. So that's why I took it upon myself to do my own research. And I guess you did, because you realize school and these other places, schools of thought, were not really giving us what we need. So because the transition of the elder Kilindi, who I've not mentioned in this talk, it made me realize more and more why we need to document, that we can't keep moving and making transitions and the information is not shared. You know, who holds that information? So sis, I know you're a keeper, you're a gatekeeper, you hold some of the mysteries, you hold a lot of the mysteries, and I look forward to opening up that dialogue with you the next time around. But
thank you.
Wicked, man, wicked.
You're going to make me go off now and start thinking about stuff, because you know, because we've done so much and you just move on and get on with what you have to do. But and I know about documenting and recording our story, but yet still, I don't think I've done, you know, in this conversation, there's a lot of it that I just put away. So it would be interesting to try and bring some things back, actually.
Yeah. Well, what it definitely has done, as I said yesterday, I've done one of these with someone else yesterday, and we've done two of them now, and he was saying the same thing. It's like the stuff that's coming up. For one, it's been therapeutic in what, you know, one aspect. It's allowed us to, you know, reignite certain things, reflect on certain things, and it's been interesting. And what I wanted to do was just make it rough, raw, because what I do know has been my personal problem in the past. Maybe trying to perfect a thing, you know, like I want to put it in a book, I want to get it like this and get it like that, and I basically have created obstacles that are preventing the information from being documented. So let's just press record, let's start talking, and let's just see what comes out. And then by the end of it, we'll see that there's some amazing things that have been coming out of these conversations. So I'm very sure that when we start talking about that stuff, there some amazing things will come out of it. And maybe we can start inviting other people. Because Zoom, you can do 3-way and 4-way conversations, and we can get some dialogues going on. You know, but I'd like to start with you. I'd like to start with you first and foremost.
Yeah, absolutely. Anytime, every time.
Cool.
Anytime, every time.
So with that, man, big up. Thank you again for your time, your energy, and your sharing. I don't know if there's anything, you know, how can people find you, you know, on the social media and that type of stuff, and to check you out if that's what people want to do?
On Facebook and Instagram, I'm under Muatta Books, Muatta Books, one word. You can find me. Right. You can find me on there.
And I'm getting that warning, that like 2% warning on my battery, sis. So
all right then.
Timing, yeah. Big up. I'll make sure that information's available, and I'll check in with you a bit later on, and then we'll do a part 2 or follow up at least.
All right. Give thanks.
All right. Bless up, sis. Thanks again.
Okay. Yeah. Please.